I wanted to chime in for a second because this ultimately wasn't always the path that you thought you were going to take. You had doubts about yourself. You wanted to be a music teacher. So I want to know, when you were younger, did you play any instruments? Do you have any talents? Why did you want to become a music teacher?
Well,
and why did you feel like it was going to work for you at the beginning?
I never wanted to be a music teacher, but I thought I was talented. I played the big upright bass and I played the guitar, but really the bass was my instrument. It just sort of came naturally to me. I played orchestral music, with orchestras, and I played jazz music. And it was just one of these talents where it couldn't be ignored. So everybody was telling me, like, you can be one of these guys that's like really talented and plays in quartets and stuff, but you'll like never make any money and your life will be a mess and you'll be a guy who's just struggling his entire life and whatever. Like most of these great musicians are. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. Or you could be a music teacher. And then if you're a teacher, then you'll have a job forever. You have the pension situation, the health insurance. So, go for that. So that's what everybody told me to do. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, that's what I'll do. And then I got up there. I went to Ithaca College, and it was horrendous. It was a terrible decision that I made. And I always tell the story, like when Mike and the Mad Dog got on TV, I think it was 2003, either 02 or 03 on Yes. And I started cutting all my music classes and watched them on TV every day. And I said, all right, I want to do that. Transferred back to Hofstra on Long Island, got the internship, and then it went from there. But yeah, it was just one of those things where everybody told me that that's what I needed to do. Like, they were like, you can't waste that talent. That people would kill to be able to play the bass like you played the bass. And I'm like, it's whatever. Like, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. So, and then so the best story about that was I put in it was the last semester up at Ithaca, and I hadn't made a decision yet on what I was going to do. So there's this thing called the jury where you play in front of all the head music teachers at Ithaca. And I said, I'm going to choose the hardest bass concerto there is. I'm going to put everything I have into it, and I'm going to see how this goes. And if it goes well, then I may stay and do music. If it doesn't, then I'm going to do something else. So I practiced my ass off 6 hours a day at a piano accompaniment. I was in the practice rooms going crazy. I get there, I get in front of the jury. I play the best I've ever played. There's, I don't know what you know about, music and bass and everything, but I have a bow and the strings of the hair on the bow is going crazy. There's rosin flying everywhere. Like, I'm sweating my ass off. And I remember hitting that last note, and the piano coming, dun, 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 dun. And I was like, this is fucking it. Like, I did it. Like I'm the man. So I remember the bass teacher walking up to me, and he knew I was a big baseball fan and where I was from and everything. So he's walking up to me. This was very rare that he would leave his seat during this jury performance and walk up to me. So I'm like, he's going to walk up to me. He's going to tell me, don't leave. You're the man. We need you here. Like, this is all the stuff he's going to say. So he gets up to the stage and he goes, my wife's a big Yankees fan, and I was wondering, do you have any connections for tickets to any Yankee games for this upcoming season? And I was like, oh, fuck this. I was like, I'm out of here. I was like, yeah, I'll look into it. I packed that bass up, and that was the end of it. I don't even think I barely played it since. Like, I played a couple of bluegrass gigs since then, which I like to do, which is another rare thing, but I haven't picked up a bow or played that bass since that moment.
Wow. Wild times at Ithaca. Is that also where you got your famous Vikings tattoo?
No, that was on Long Island. That's before I went to Ithaca. That was 18. I got it at Tattoo Lou's in Ronkonkoma when I was a senior in high school. Yeah, right after I graduated, I think. So yeah, it's just a bad idea. And I don't know what the hell. I forget it's there sometimes. I got to be honest with you. Like, in the wintertime, and I'm just always heavily clothed, I forget that it's there. It's a total embarrassment. I wish I could do something about it, but you can't. It's a tattoo. I mean, apparently the tattoo removal process is like 50 times more painful than actually getting the tattoo. So,
well, Pete Davidson, who I went to high school with, is getting all his tattoos removed. So yeah, perhaps maybe you can chime in too.
Oh my God! Like, how long is that going to take? I mean, that guy's covered.
He's covered.
Right?
He's covered in tattoos. It's going to take years.
Yeah. Brutal. Yeah, I don't know. I may turn it into something else. I know there's people like that can turn things into something that you want, but then again, if I do that, and that is a disaster. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to use it as like a teaching moment for my daughter and just be like, listen, your dad was a freaking idiot. Don't do something like this. Look what he's living with. You know, he's got this thing on his arm through his arm hair. It looks horrible. Half the people don't know what it is. Just live and learn, you know?
Yeah, well, my uncle's got a bunch of tattoos. It's fine. He's had them removed. Right,
tattoos. I've got no problem with tattoos. The fact that I've got the Viking logo to scale on their jersey on my arm. Like, that's the problem that I have. And as much as I can't stand that franchise right now and what they've done to me emotionally, I don't want any part of it. I don't want to be associated with them.
All you're missing is the predictive championship year that doesn't come to fruition. That makes it look even more dumb. But for now, I mean, the logo is fine.
Yeah. And then there's like inevitably some sports blog will pick that up every single time. Like, oh, this guy got the Dallas Cowboys 2020, Super Bowl champ. It's like, shut up. I mean, it's enough of this already. Like, it's just like, it's some jackass somewhere who does this just to get attention and then we're giving it to him. Like, enough of this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's wild. People do that. Now, I want to get back to, you mentioned Steve Summers, he was always really nice to me when I was an intern. He went out of his way to talk to me, which I thought was interesting. But I guess I want to know, and maybe you haven't seen him in a while because of your schedules, but is he still wearing his same black turtlenecks from 2005 now?
I'm sure he is. I mean, I have not seen him. He has not been in the office since all of this happened as well. So, yeah, I haven't seen him since I think it was the Christmas party last year that we had. So like before we went to the Christmas party, we stopped at work and we were there for a little bit and Steve was on the air. Wow. That was the last time I saw him. But no, when did you intern there, Nick? Was I there when you interned?
I interned when you were in Pittsburgh, 2012, 13. So just missed you barely. But Summers was great. One of the funniest things I remember at Summers, and I think this has happened a few times, is that obviously we know he takes many breaks to go outside, and he got stuck on the elevator. So they had to call up Richard Neer, who I guess now they call up anybody because all of you guys are home. But imagine Richard Neer getting the call of the bullpen in the middle of a Steve Summers show. I mean, that's just Summers stuck on an elevator is one of the images that always got stuck on my mind now because he was probably panicking.
For sure. Yeah, no, of course he was. I mean, he probably smoked 15 cigarettes in that elevator and didn't give a crap about it. Yeah, I've heard that story. I mean, Richard Neer's always there to save the day, but you're right. Now any of us can do it, which is a little scary. I haven't gotten that call yet of like, hey, dial up. You got to do a show. But if I did, I'd probably have to answer the bell.
Yeah, you got the home studio. And right now, I think the most likely person that they would just throw on is probably JJ. I mean, they're just home, so just say, "Hey, JJ, go on."
He always seems like he's awake.
Oh my God, yeah, like that's or he's like he's the type of guy that I imagine like sleeps upside down like a bat, for like an hour and a half a night, and then
after
just wakes up and just goes again.
Did you ever confirm with him what he was saying about Sanchez behind the box?
Oh, Romine, yeah. So I think what it was, and we had confirmed it. He was saying, "Have you seen Romine behind there, Bob?" Because the caller was named Bob, and it came out. Have you seen Romine behind it, Bob? So you had no idea what the hell it was. But yeah, I think we finally got to the point. The caller's name was Bob. He said it so fast. It was Romine behind there, Bob. But yeah, we still bust his balls about that. It's been like 4 years later. He can't live that one down.
Yeah, I mean, Joe and I are Staten Island guys, but I can't understand half the things he's saying sometimes. So it's tough. I'm not to take any shots here, but yeah, he's interesting. But he's one of the younger guys there. I want to ask you: is there pressure on you as a lot of the guys in the studio right now look at you as the leader, the early 2000s, mid 2000s guys, Moose, Sal, Mac, Mons, Tommy. They come to you. You're the leader. Obviously, we had Mac and Tommy did a great show on the 30th, and they were referencing you a lot. Moose, he calls you up a lot. But any pressure on you as kind of like the leader of that young brigade there, the Young Justice Society?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm the leader of it. I mean, I do think that, people, when they're put in particular situations where they're not sure what to do in their careers, they call up lots of people. And I happen to be one of those people. And I think the reasons why are, one, I've had some success. Two, I've had a lot of experiences in a short amount of time. And also, like, I'm willing to listen and willing to talk, where a lot of people, maybe aren't in this business when they get to a certain level. And like, there was a lot of people that I talked to, going through the stuff that I did. It was invaluable information and conversations that I had. So I try to do that for anybody who wants it. But there's also, there's a lot of people that don't want any advice. There's a lot of people that don't want to think that they, like, for whatever reason, pride or something else, like, oh, you have to go to somebody and they'll tell you what to do. And I absolutely never in any of those conversations tell people what to do. Like, I'll give them my perspective. This is how I handled it. This is what I see. This is how I handle it. But you got to do what you want to do. So I do feel sometimes when, like, the pressure question, I do feel sometimes that if someone is taking me word for word and they're going to follow everything I say to help their career, there could be some pressure. But I always make sure to tell people, don't do that. Like I'll give you my perspective on it, and I'll talk and answer any question you want. But like, a lot of this stuff is up to you. You have to make these decisions. It's sort of like, it's like fantasy football. Like, you get all the information there. Like you can't just take someone else's plays in fantasy football. You get all the information. When it comes down to it, you got to have a gut feeling about what you believe is the right play. Because if you just plugging in someone else's lineup into DraftKings or something, that's never going to work.
No doubt about it, even though we see a ton of these fantasy experts and whatnot. Now, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about people helping each other out and keeping it tight knit. Joe Benigno helps you out hugely, takes you to lunch, introduces you to his agent, now your agent, yeah. Mark. What was that like? And, sure, I guess not too long after that, you end up heading to Sports Radio 93.7, The Fan in Pittsburgh. But what was that timeline like for you?
Yeah, Joe, it was amazing. And now I think that agent, Mark Lepselter, who's still my agent now, he probably, no matter what I said, looked like, did that day, was going to do Joe a favor, and he was going to sign me anyway. And he's never told me this, but I'm sure deep down he thought, like, what the fuck is going on with this kid? Like, why in the hell would Joe Benigno bring me this producer who does like a Joe Benigno impersonation? Like, big deal. Like what? Like, but he just did it. And then it took off from there. And I remember, like, he negotiated my contract in Pittsburgh to do nights from 6 to 10, like he was negotiating a $3 million contract for somebody on the NFL today. And that was like, I think he negotiated up from like $47,000 to $50,000 to do that show in Pittsburgh. And I remember the general manager in Pittsburgh going, like, I've never dealt with an agent with anybody before. Like, and now like I'm dealing with this guy 4 or 5 times a day to negotiate a contract for a guy to do nights on a station that just launches is crazy. But yeah, I remember thinking at that point, like, I got to capitalize on this opportunity. I'm fresh in his mind. I remember he brought me over to ESPN Radio shortly after that. And first I hosted my first show. It was the day after Thanksgiving, 2008. And I remember doing a bit where I was screaming about the halftime show of the Lions game that day. I believe it was Jesse McCartney was the person they put out there. And it was me just basically saying, these poor people, they've gone through hell and back. They live in Detroit. It was right around the time where, the whole auto industry had collapsed too. I was like, these people are probably jobless, and you trot out some 16-year-old kid out there to give the halftime show entertainment. And I was like screaming at the top of my lungs. It was my first opportunity on the air. And I remember going over to ESPN Radio with that clip, and we played it for the then program director. His name was Aaron Spielberg, I think. And he just looked at me and was like, this is not the radio that we do over here. that was the end of that. Like, they had more cookie cutter type of stuff, whatever. They were more, sort of trying to appease the big bosses over there at ESPN. And then I said, okay, well, I guess I either have to tone it down or I have to find somebody that wants me to be myself. And ended up that CBS Radio at the time was happy with me being me. And sent me out to Pittsburgh, and that's how it worked out.
I remember, I think they were in the Rex Ryan days. I don't know if you were filling in the midday or something, but